Hello everyone. So I'd like to welcome you all to another chapter of the Python beginners tutorial. So now we are on our chapter number 7, where we will learn about the strings, the integer and float in Python. Okay, so we already have known about different kind of data types, but here in this particular chapter, we will learn in detail about string, integer, float, how you can slice it, and also about different data types as well. So let's not waste time and let's get started. So over here on my screen, as you guys can see, now I'm here in again the same project in which we're working. So from here, I will just create up a new Python file. And as we are going to learn about strings, we do have two separate classes about strings because inside this, we will also talk about numbers, integers, floats, and also different kind of methods. Okay, so we will learn about the string methods. We will be showing you guys different kind of examples through that. So let me just name this one as string one dot py, as this one is a Python file. And now let's click on enter, and right over here let me just create several lines that I can show you guys quite properly. So you guys already know that you do have an idea that what a string is. So to show you guys about that, let me just create up a variable, and I will just name my variable as variable itself. And also you need to make sure that when you're typing a string is always inside a double quote, or you guys can use a single quote as well. Okay, so I'll just open my double quotation over here, and I will just type Python tutorial. Okay, so I'll just type Python tutorial right over here. And as you guys can see, if I just come here and I will just give the print command. Let's come here, let's give the print command. And if I just type variable, and now if I just run my code, you guys can see Python tutorial, this particular statement will be printed. Okay. So over here, now I don't have to use this parenthesis right over here. Without parenthesis also, if I run this, it will show me the same thing. But the thing what we need to understand while writing is that we use this quotation. So it can be a double quotation, or also it can be a single quotation as well. Okay, but make sure that if you're using single quotation at first, make sure to use the single quotation at last as well. And if you're using the double quotation at first, you make sure that you close it with double quotation as well. Okay, so over here now you guys can also run this, and it will just show you guys the same answer, as you guys can see here on my console as well. But the main thing what you should remember while you're working over here is that once you're working and let's say you do have something which contains a quotation already. Okay, so why don't we use the single quotation most of the time? Okay, let's say I am typing there's, okay, which already contains a quotation, there's a toy. Okay, so if I just type this one here, you guys can already see that my string already consists of a quotation. But here the Python will understand that, okay, the first quotation is starting from here and it is ending from here. It won't see that what are the content I do have after the last quotation, which actually is inside the string. So you can also write it with single quote. Let's say if I come here and after quotation, if I try to type slash quotation. Okay, if I just come here and if I type backslash, and if I just come here and if I now try to run, you guys can see it shows me that there's a toy. But this one is more hectic. Instead of this, instead of putting this backslash, what I can easily do is I can just put this one inside a double quotation. Okay, so I can come here and I can just put this one inside a double quotation. So let's run this one, and here you guys can see now this quotation is already inside my string. Okay, and also inside your string you guys can put out numbers as well. Okay, like over here inside with letters, you guys can also use numbers. Okay, but those numbers will basically show you that that is a string data type as well. Okay, but if you're using only numbers, then it will show you that that is basically a integer. Okay, so we need to make sure of that once we are working. So this is basically about a string. So now let's say if you do want to create a variable, and also while you're printing, you also want to print something else. Let's say I will just come here and I'll just type the same thing which I had before, which was Python tutorial. Okay, so I do have this Python tutorial right over here. And now once you're trying to print, you want to print that Python tutorial is a good class. Okay, if you want to type this same thing, what I can do is I will come here into the print option, and after variable, I'll just give it up a space. And now over here, I will just put plus. Let me just give it up a space. And now I will open my double quote. And what I can do is Python tutorial is a good class. Okay, so I'll just type this one down. And once you have typed this, now if I just run this particular code here, this is how it shows. Okay, but now if you just take a look between Python tutorial and is, between the tutorial and is letter, I don't have a space in between. Okay, so how you will be able to create that is, let's come here and let me just give it up a space, and also let me just provide it with a plus sign. Let's come here. Now let's create a double quote, and now over here I'll just provide a space and again close this down with a double quote. And again, if I just run this one here, now you guys can see clearly that there is a gap between Python tutorial is a good class. So if you want to add another text or another string, you guys need to make sure that you use the plus sign. For a space as well, you need to make sure that you provide a plus sign and put double quote to give it up a space. So you guys will understand about the spaces once I explain you guys about index numbering, which we will learn in our next class. Okay, so there I will be explaining you guys about the string method. Okay, like how you will be able to number, how you will be able to print a particular set. We will be learning about string slices as well. Okay, so now let's try to understand this. Otherwise, let's come here and let's delete this thing up. Okay, so let's come here, let's just delete everything. And from here, let's say I do have these two words, and these two words inside my variable, I want to print this one in two separate lines. Okay, I don't want this to be in one normal line. So for that, what I can do is I can come here, and the same way I will just use the black slash, and I will use the letter N. And after that, I will just come here and I'll just click on run, and down in my console, if you just can take up a look, you guys can see that I do have Python and tutorial in two separate lines. Okay, so this is how you guys can work as well. So this was about that. And also in Python, we guys can basically use different kind of functions. Okay, so now we will be learning about different kind of functions right over here. So the first one is that when you're trying to print, okay, let's say now I do have my variable right over here. And what I want to do is I want to print this variable all in upper letter or all in small letter. So I'll be able to do that using a different function, which is known as upper. Let's say if I just come here and if I just write this upper option, and now let me just open parenthesis right over here, and if I just run this one, you guys can see all the letters which I had over here is now in upper letter. Okay, and the same way, if you do want to do just the opposite, if you want to have each and everything in lower letter, okay, you guys can type lower, and you guys can just run this particular code, and here you guys can see in print everything will be printed in lower letter. Okay, so this is how you guys can work. And also if you want to check a statement, let's say now here there in my variable, what I do have mentioned is that I do have the first letter as capital, and the first and everything is small. Okay, so over here, if I want to check up any statement, let's say if I want to come here and if I want to check it in Boolean value, so you guys already know that what is a Boolean value. It is it will show you that is that a true statement or is that a false statement. So I'll check that is lower. Okay, so I can come here and I can type is lower. And if I just run this particular code here, it shows me that this is a false statement because here I do have my P in upper letter and over here I do have my T in upper letter as well. So the same thing, let me just put it in small cap. Okay, so let me just put my T as small cap as well. And now I'll just run the same thing, which shows me that now this is a true statement. So I can just do it with upper as well. Let's say now if I just come here and if I just type is upper and let's run this code here, you guys can see this is a false statement. But the same way now, let's come here and let's type each and everything. Okay, in cap. Python tutorial in upper cap. And here now, if I just run this statement, you guys can see this statement will basically turn into true. Okay. So now let's come here and again, let me just type it with Python tutorial. And now let's come here and let me just delete this one. And now from here, let's say we will be learning about more functions as well. Okay. So here, the other functions which we are going to learn is basically that if you want to count that how many character inside this variable you do have. So each letter over here is one character. Okay, so if you want to count how many characters over here you do have, you guys can also do that right over here. So let me just explain you guys in detail how it actually works. Okay, so let me just make it a comment. Okay, and over here now let's type Python. Let's type tutorial. Python tutorial. And now over here, let's provide a gap as well. And now I will just come down and let me just put this same thing right over here as well. So in Python, these are called indexing your number. Okay, so how you will be able to count it or how it actually counts your number. So each of these do have a number which are called their indices. Okay, and the count starts from 0 and after that it is 1 2 uh then this one is 3, this one is 4, this one is 5, and the space is counted as 6. After that here this one is 7, here it's 8, this one is 9, this is 10, over here it's 11, 12. Let's come here. Let me just give it up a space. Okay. So let me just come here. Let's give this one up a space. Let's come here and also let's provide a space. So over here, this is 13 and lastly this one is 14. So over here you guys can see I do have total 14 characters. So the space is also a character right over here as well. So about this in our next tutorial we will be learning in detail. So if you want to find what is the length of this particular variable, you guys can come here and you guys can just put the len value. Let's come here and over here let's type len, and now I will also add another parenthesis, and also over here I will just close this down with another parenthesis right over here. And if I run, you guys can see it's showing me that over here I do have 15. Okay, so if I come here and let me just check that do I have any space. So here I do have 15. So over here, as you guys can see, it is just showing me the total length of this number, which actually shows me that it is not starting to count the zero at the first number, but it is just giving me that how many characters do I have over here. But this indexing will basically start working when you are starting to work using slicing. Okay, when you're using slices in printing. Okay, so we will be learning about that in detail. But now, to just get started, this is actually used to count how many character you do have inside. Okay, so now over here, if you want to specify any numbers, let's say over here, as you guys can see, it is starting from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if you want to say, let's say you want to take T, okay, you want to type T. So from here, to specify any number, what you guys can do is, instead of uh, putting this len, let's come here, let's delete this as well, and over here now I will just put out a square bracket, and inside square bracket I will put out the index number of that particular letter. Let's say I want T, so what I can do is I can just type 7, and if I come here, if I run this here, you guys can see that I do have T right over here. Okay, so you guys can see I do have T right over here. And if you do want to do the same thing, just vice versa, in that case, what you guys can do is, instead of that, instead of writing quite like this, let's come here, and after writing the variable, I will just put a dot, then I will type index, and after typing index, I will just open my parenthesis, and now inside my double quote, I can just specify, let's say I want to find the index number of P, okay, which is 0. So I will just type capital P, and you need to make sure the uh, letter case what you're using inside the variable, you put the same letter case. Okay, so if I just run this code here in the console, you guys can see it's 0. And the same way, if I just type L, okay, and if I just run this one here, you guys can see now the answer is 14. Okay, as you guys can see over here, it is showing me 14 as well. Okay, and now over here, if I just give it up a space, and if I just run this one here, you guys can see, as here in the index number 6, I do have a space, so it is showing me space. I have put space over here, and it is showing me that the space index number is 6. Okay, so if you want to specify anything, you guys can come here and you guys can do that using this particular function. Okay, so this is a few things about variable. I hope you guys do have got a basic idea of how you will be able to use those. And lastly, I will be telling you guys that, let's say over here I do have a word. Okay, so this particular variable actually consists of two separate words. So one is Python and the another one is tutorial. Okay, so from here, let's say if I want to change anything, or if I want to change any particular word, how I will be able to do so. Okay, so we will be learning about that right over here. So first thing first, to do that, let's come here, let's delete this one. And after typing your variable, you need to make sure that you put out a dot. And after writing dot, you guys can just type replace. And after writing replace, make sure to open parenthesis, and inside the parenthesis, make sure you open your double quote and you write, let's say I want to change the word Python. So I will just type Python, the word which I want to change. And after writing Python, I will come here, and now let's give it up a space. Let's give a comma. And now I will just open another set of parentheses. And here you guys can see it shows me that this is the old letter. And now I'll be writing the new letter. Let's say I will just write Java script. Okay, so I want to replace the word Python with JavaScript. And now if I just run this code here, you guys can see now in my result in the console, it shows me that JavaScript tutorial instead of being Python tutorial stored in my variable. Okay, so this is how you guys can also use the dot replace functions over here as well. Okay, So yeah, I hope you guys have got a basic idea about how it actually works. Okay. So now let's come here. Let's just delete this one. Let's just close this one with a parenthesis as well. So throughout this tutorial, we do have learned a lot, like how you will be able to make a new line, what is a string, how you will be able to add to your string, how you will be able to apply different function. Let's say how you will be able to make a lowercase, how you'll be able to make a uppercase. We do have learned about how you will be able to get a Boolean value by checking that all the letters are upper or lower letter, how you will be able to count characters, how you will be able to specify a index number, and also the vice versa. And lastly, we do have learned that how you will be able to replace a word from the variable. Okay. So this was about that. And now the next thing what you are going to learn is we are going to learn about numbers. Okay. So over here, we are going to work with numbers, let's say. So now to start that, let me just clear all of this. Let's kill this function. And over here, now I will put out a number over here. Okay. So I can just type 5. Okay. Let's say I will type 5 or let's go with 7. And if I run this code here, you guys can see it will show me 7 right over here. Okay. You can do some basic mathematical equation, let's say. Okay, you guys can come here and you guys can just put plus 3. And now if I just run this code here, you guys can see I will have 10 as the answer. And once you're using numbers, you need to understand that there are different kind of data types. Okay, if I'm using any decimal number, it is basically a float. Okay, so if you want to check the decimal number, okay, like what it is basically, you guys can come here and now you guys can just type, and I'll just open parenthesis over here. And lastly, I will come here and I'll just use close parenthesis. And now here you guys can see this is an integer. But the same way, let's come here and let me just put out a decimal number. Let's go with 3456. Okay, 7.3456. And if I just run this code here, this is a float data type. So one is an integer data type, which is a whole number, and another one is a data type which is a whole number, which is an integer data type. So we need to make sure that we understand this particular part over here. So inside here, we guys can basically have negative numbers as well. Okay, I can just put negative number, and if I print here, you guys can see, let's just delete this type. Okay, let's come here, let's delete this one, let's run this code here. It shows me a minus number as well. Okay, so over here you guys can also do equations. Let's say you guys can plus, you guys can minus. Inside the variable, you guys can also put multiplication and division as well. Like you guys can use simple operators inside that itself. Okay. And also, let's say you guys can convert a number to a string also. Okay. So if you do want to add anything, let's say if I just type just 7. Okay. If I just type 7, and here, if I want to add a string to it, let's say I will type variable. And now what I want to do is I want to tell that it is a string. Okay, let's come here. I will just type variable, and over here now if I just put plus sign, and now I will just open my double quote and I will type is my favorite number. Okay, so here if you just take up a look, you guys will be able to see that here I do have two different data types, and over here I am telling them to print. Okay, so for that, what happens over here is it won't be able to print and it will show me an error. So when I try to run here, you guys can see unsupported operand types for plus, int, and str. So to solve this problem, what I can do is I can come here and I can turn this particular variable into string first. Okay, so now if you want to check the data type, as I have already showed you that this is a int data type, which is an integer, as it says that this is a whole number. But if I want to turn this into str, what I can do is I can just open parenthesis right over here, and if I just type str, and now I will just try to run this particular code. Okay, so over here now, let's come here and I will just give it up a space, and also I will put this variable inside double quote. Okay, so I need to make sure that I put this one inside double quote as well. And now, so now once over here, I do have mentioned that this is a string. And if I just print over here, you guys can see that it's written 7 is my favorite number. Okay, so the same way, if you do want to create up a space, let's provide a plus, and now let's give double quote, and let's give it up a space and double quote over here as well. And here you guys can see in my console, it's written 7 is my favorite number. Okay, so over here, you guys can convert a number to a string using the str function. Okay, so you guys can also do that. In our previous classes, we do have learned about the len function, or in this particular classes only we do have learned about the len functions in our first part. Okay, so this is how you guys can actually work with number. Okay, so in number also you guys can use different kind of function. Okay, so let's start to see about different kind of function right over here. Let's come here. Let's just delete this one. Let's open parenthesis over here. And now let's type. Okay, so I will just type this variable. And also, if you do want to find out the absolute number, let's say over here, if I just put any -7 number, and after variable, let's come here, and now let's put abs. Okay, if I do want to find out the absolute number, let's come here and let's type abs function. And after abs functions, let's come here, let's put out the bracket. And if I just run this one here, now the variable is -7. But once I have printed this one, it shows me the number 7 right over here. So this is one function which will give you the absolute value of the number which you do have provided. The same way, if I just put 77, it will just give me 77, and it won't count the minus sign right over here. And also over here, if you do want to find a power of any number, let's say if I want to come here and if I want to type the POW, and over here you guys can see now it will ask me three different things. Okay, first off, it will ask me the number. Okay, so over here, what number is powered by what? Let's say I will just add two separate numbers. Let's come here and over here. Now let's find 9. Let's give comma 9 powered by 3. And if I just run this one here, you guys can see 729. The same way, if I want to put 3 powered by 3, and if I just run this one here, you guys can see I do have 77 as the number. Okay, and in the same way, I can also put this variable which is 77. Let me just put it minus right over here, and using this power function I can actually find out the power. And the same way, now over here, if I do want to find, let's say I want to find what is the minimum number or the maximum number, I can use the max function. And over here, let me just provide a few different numbers. Okay, so let's come here, and over here now let's put 5, and from here I want to find out the maximum number. And here you guys can see, once I click on run in my console, it is showing me the maximum number out of this 3. And the same way from here, if I just type min, okay, it will show me what is the minimum number out of these 3. So here you guys can see that 3 is the minimum number out of these 3 numbers which I do have provided. So you guys can have multiple numbers right over here. And also now, let's say if I do have a float number, which consists of a decimal. Let's say I do have 5.43. Okay, so I do have the number 5.43. And from here, now I want to find the round of this particular number. Okay, so let's type round. Okay, so I will just type round, and inside here I will type my variable. Okay, so let's come here and now let's type variable. And now if I just run this one here, it will show me the rounded number. Okay, so here, as you guys can see, I do have put 5.43, but the same way, if I just put 5.53, which is more than half, and if I just run this one, it will show me the answer as 6. Okay, so these are some of the functions which you can use while working with numbers. And now let's try to understand about few other things. Okay, let's come here and let's click on enter. And over here, if you want to import some external math functions, okay, so already I do have showed you that you guys can do some of the math functions, but instead of that, if you want to import some external math codes, you guys can also do that in Python. But for that, in the first line, you do have to provide a code which is from math import, and I will use the asterisk. Okay, so I will just use from math import asterisk. And after that, what you guys can do is you guys can come here and you guys can come down and you guys can use different kind of functions. Let's say here, instead of round, if I just put floor. Okay, let's come here, and if I just type the function floor, it will basically show me that the the lowest of this number, it takes the lower number. Let's say if I just put 5.93 instead of floor, if I would have put the round function, it will show me 6. But over here, if I just run this code here, it will just take the lowest number out of that. Okay, so here, as you guys can see, whatever decimal it is, okay, it is basically going to show me the lowest number. Okay, so it is used for that. And after that, again, I do have this other function which is known as seal. Okay, so over here I can just come here and I can just type the seal function. Okay, and if I just run this code here, you guys can see it will show me the same thing, which will round off. And at the same time, you guys can also find out the square root. Let's say if I want to find out the square root of 88, let's say I want to find out the square root, I can use the sqrt function. Okay, so over here, as you guys can see, I do have the sqrt function. And now if I just run this here, you guys can see the square root of 88 is 9.380. And if you do want to round it off as well, you guys can come here and you guys can round off the number with another code just underneath or over here in the same line as well. Okay, so yeah, I hope you guys do have got a idea about different kind of data type, like how you will be able to actually work with different data type. Let's come here and let's check that this is a floor. Let me just put 4 3. And the same way, if I just type, let me just put this type function or this type condition, and if I run here, it will show me that this is a float data type. So I hope you guys to have understood this class quite well and quite clearly about different kind of functions in string. So I hope to see you all in the next chapter where we're going to learn more about strings in detail. Okay, we will be learning about different kind of methods used in strings. We will learn about indices in detail, about slicing in detail. So I hope to see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye, everyone.